Hello and welcome to my first stream on this channel. For those who may already know me, I'm Steve McDougall. I usually do live streams on my own channel, but I'm going to be doing it through this channel for work. So I work at a company called Treblle. We do API analytics, API monitoring, API tools. My signal is a little bit funny. Wait for that to settle and we should be good. There we go. You'd think going hardwired, I would have lost all of these issues that I see. But hey, there we go. Today, what are we doing? We are going to be building an API in Laravel. It's an awesome API. Of course, it's going to be an awesome API. What we're going to be doing is building something called the D&D API. So it's a little bit, well, it's not really a D&D API. It's more of a Dungeon Master's toolkit. So think that you can create a campaign, select a map, choose the locations that you want to appear within your campaign, creating the monsters that you might want to randomly appear throughout your campaign, choose items or create items that you might want the characters in your campaign to be able to obtain. Yeah, just a lot of fun, basically. I've had a lot of fun trying to figure this one out. And hey, Chris, thank you for joining me. What can I do? Let me just go view this on YouTube quickly. So I can mute myself as well. And what I am going to do is, there we go, Chris. Chris works with me. He is one of our engineers at Treblle. And you are now moderator, Chris, so that I can focus on the content. I'm only going to be doing about an hour today, so it's not going to be fully in depth, but I'm going to pick more up perhaps tomorrow. I'll schedule it as soon as I figure out what I achieved today. Just going to have some coffee and we'll get started. So all I've done so far, and this repository is completely public. You can access it, you can view it. It's really cool. I've created the models, some of the models so far. The power band, Steve. Off I go. So I've created the models, I've created the factories, I've added a little bit of a seeder, I've done database.sqlite, I've created myself a user, created a map for myself, started a campaign, added 10 random locations, submitted some stuff. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want to generate user count. Let's say I've got 10 monsters as well. So there we go. Let's just do that quickly. So I'm going to go ask them migrate fresh in seed. Seed in the database. There we go. Let me add that. Git commit adding monsters to the seeder. So what I'm going to do now quickly is just to show you some of the stuff that I've been doing. So let's go in Tinker. If I go app, models, monster, let's get the first monster. So we've got a humanoid monster called Helen Wilms, a random summary, the story. So like the backlog, the backstory of a monster. So you can really get into that. The level, level 10, haven't really figured that part out yet. The stats, the health, speed, strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma, and mana. User and when they were created. So that is that. So if I get the first one and I just say, okay, type, I have got a humanoid. So if I look at monster types over here in my app, enums monster type, each monster has got the type, a description about them, and some media. So if I come over to resources, images, monsters, I have gone through Mid-Journey, and created all of these cool images that we can also use in our API to stream and say it is some cool stuff. So here's like a humanoid one, for example, a monstrosity, an ooze, plant, swarm, and undead. So lots of cool stuff. Then the same thing's been done with locations, for example. So let's say this is the keep, this is the mountain, the prison. When you're looking at characters, my camera is covering the, tell you what, I'm going to hide my beard and face and you can focus more on this. So you got the class of character. So you could be a cleric, you could be a blood hunter, you could be a monk or a paladin, and then the race of characters. So you could be a gnome, a halfling, you know, so many different things. I've gone through and mid-journeyed the bejesus out of this. So I'm trying to create a really engaging experience here. So the first thing we want to think about here is, well, the API. That's why we're here, right? Thank you, Susanna. Good to see you here. So I've cleaned up some roots. I've got rid of everything other than this file here. This isn't important right now. We don't care about the authenticated user yet. So what I want to do is, the first thing is you're going to want to do some kind of like meta queries to say, can I zoom in a bit? Yes, I can. There you go. What am I on? 26. There you go. So you're going to want some meta queries to get some information. You're going to want to be able to go, okay, all of these different enums, basically, you know, character, class, character, race, location type, monster type. You're going to want to be able to kind of see them, play with them. I'm imagining I might do this in like, you know, a simple web app, or it could be a CLI app, or maybe even a native PHP app could be quite fun. That part I'll get around to, but right now I'm just going to focus on, let's build out these meta endpoints. So I'm going to literally call them meta, but I will version this because versioning is important in an API, especially when it's like a public API that you're planning on potentially supporting. Directory v1. Let me see if I can editor, general. Can I font? Okay, that's not zooming in. Okay, we'll figure that one out. React Native build of how to use this API. Yeah, feel free, please, Chris. That'd be amazing. So we're going to have our v1 here. Within here, we're going to register our roots within a roots file. Let's go through and get this started. I can delete that because I don't actually need it. My office gets so warm during the day, which is crazy because I live in Wales and it's never warm here. I'm going to turn on my fan. If you can hear it, I apologize. Let me know in the chat and I can turn it off. I just live in a sweatbox a little bit and it's all good. So we're going to want some meta roots. So here's meta, as meta, and we're going to group here as well. So if I come back to my API file, yeah, that can be ignored for now. What I've got is everything is preloading through this API here. This is the entry point for our Laravel application. And I want to register all of my kind of versions in this. So then here I can just say, okay, so in the base path, I want to go to roots, v1, hey, typo, roots.php. So that will load in. Can I just tell that, don't show again for this project, don't show again, and don't show again. Stop reminding me I haven't done stuff. I know that. So my entry point, I load in my roots, my versioned roots. I can quite easily come down, add v2, add v3, add a GraphQL endpoint, and all of those things will just work. And it's an entry point. I can look at it from a really high overview and just say, okay, cool. So they're the versions I've got. I know what's going on. I can dive in. Then all of my version routes are grouped within the v1 directory, loaded into this entry point. So here's my v1 meta. And then I could write it all out long form here, but I like to group them. So I can come here and I can say, here's all of my meta endpoints. So I can come over, grab that, root, get, something, name, something. So over in here, I can then just group this and say, okay, so I want the roots v1 meta.php. So now if I come over to my terminal, quit out of that, I can look at my roots. And look, I've got a v1 meta something. It's there. It's all grouped specifically how I would like it. So the different meta things that I'm going to want to have here are probably the character class. I'm going to want the character race. I'm going to want the location types. And I'm going to want the monster types. They're the key ones. Can you nest them? API group, monster group, update. I'm not really sure what you mean by that, Chris. Please explain further so I can answer you. Right. So we're going to want to say, okay, so I want to get all character classes. This is how I like to do my root naming. So we'll update would be another group file. Yes, 100%, because this is meta. This is kind of meta stuff. This is something that isn't kind of user generated at this point. So I've got my character classes. I'm going to want my character races. I'm going to want my location types. So I can say here, location types. And I'm going to want my monster types. So if I go back and have a look at this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to exclude vendor. Ooh, okay. I'll ignore that. I don't know why that's doing that. So I'll have v1 meta character classes, v1 meta. All of these will be cached. That is the idea. So this is the start of what we're building. So we're going to want some controllers. So app HTTP controllers, we can start to version these under namespaces. So we've got v1. We'll probably create a meta directory, a meta namespace at this point. And we're going to say, let's create a character class controller. We'll also create a character race controller. Then we're also going to create the location type controller. And finally, we are going to create the monster type controller. So all of these can then be hooked in. So I just say make this a little bit easier to use. Use that, so I can just say that. And then here I can say meta character race controller class. Here I can say meta location type controller class. And finally, meta monster type controller class. And all of this is kind of, do that, click verbal, you can click, you can see, everything's all great. If I don't want to patch a name, a patch a class, for example, in updates. Yeah, so I'm going to work on that, I think. There's going to be something that I can do around that, but I'll get to that point. Stop rushing me, Chris. I'm getting there, right? So let's start with character class controller. Let's start here. I'm not extending the default controller. I've made that abstract now, but I probably won't use it in all reality. So what I need is this. I want to say public function construct. This is where I'll pull in any dependencies. I want to say that I'm accepting a request. And I'm going to return some form of responsible object back. So at this point, we are just going to be loading an enum, loading the cases and working with it, right? So for now, I'm just going to say die and dump on character class cases. Let me make sure that we don't die. We did die. Invalid root action. Yeah, okay. So I basically need to add this to all of them quickly. Otherwise, we're going to fall over ourselves, basically. That is needed on this one, and this one. So let's create a new request. We're going to create a folder first, and we're going to call these meta endpoints. You should be able to see this, okay. This one is going to be character classes. This is going to be a GET request to the URL. V1 meta character classes. 404 not found. Okay, so headers, where were we sending this request to? We don't need that /. So what I'm going to do, come to the environment. I like to add that. That is now correct. Preview. Excellent. So we've got these. Great. Hey, Bushan. Hey, Rob. Oh, this is so much fun. It's D&D and APIs all in one. So what I want to make sure that I do is we've got a fighter class, we've got a barbarian, but there's more information to be had. So we need to look at how we're going to pull this back. So firstly, we need our headers. Anytime you're working with an API, make sure you're sending the correct headers. So this character class, I want to be able to take these and I want to build something to pass back. I need a resource, in effect. So we clear that. Composer require Tim McDonald is not there. So Tim McDonald JSON API, and I need to get the correct version. Here we go. JSON API resources for Laravel. I'm pretty sure it is a beta release still. So let's do that and make sure we're getting the latest version. Releases, V1 beta. There we go. This is the version that we want. That is installing, that is doing magic, which means that we can start to, I'm using herd, by the way, which is great. I mean, I've still got everything that I need locally, but you know. So I want to make a resource under v1 meta character class resource. There we go. So basically, I want to pass this through to my resource to their return. How so resources, these are great for transforming the data that you want to send into a consistent approach. You want things consistent when you've got an API thing. Any data should always be the same format. And the reason I use the JSON API one is because I like it, if I'm honest. You don't need it. Don't get me wrong. You do not need it at all. In fact, let's see if this works or if this breaks, because this isn't actually what is even going on with this formatting right now? I think I broke something in the settings by using Laravel pipes somewhere. No external formatter, apply. Let's try that again. Yeah, it was Laravel pipe plugin breaking stuff. So we've got two attributes. This may break because it hasn't got like a model that we can use to pass through, but we will see. So we'll have a property here. We'll have a character class coming through as a resource, basically. So name, this resource name. We'll send through the value as well. This resource value. Now, if we go have a look at this, we've got media and description as well. And I've created has attributes or access attributes. I created something, get attributes. Get attributes there. And what this will do is you pass in the back to enum and you get the value of the description or the media class right now. That's all I'm doing right now. So description get attributes. I don't really want this to be private. I want this to be public static so I can call it where I need to. So here, for example, I want to say character class description where the enum is this resource. Then the media is going to be character class media where the enum is this resource. Let's see if that works, right? It might not work. I haven't tested this at all in any way, so let's just see. Let's die and dump, or if I just remove this for now, I'm just going to say return character class resource collection where the resource is this, and send. Unable to resolve resource object ID for character class. That is coming from the resource identifier on here. So what we want to do is we've got two attribute, two links to meta, two ID. So this is where we want to come here. Because it's a meta one, we've got to do something slightly different. So at this point, we're just going to return this resource. Name is probably the right thing to use there. So run that again. Object type. So this time we need to go to type. Maybe to here. And this again will return a string. And this is just going to this is going to return a character class. So now let's see. Here we go. We've got a fighter that's a character class. Here's the attributes. There's the media. So what we probably want to do here, when we get this media, we probably want to say URL asset path resource path, where the path is that. Let's see if that will fix it. That is ugly. Do I then need to? Yeah. Yeah, so the character class was built off stream. It's just an enum with some attributes, media description, warrior. This is just like tagging for maybe something I can do later on. You know, we've got warrior types, we've got magic types, rogue types, hybrid types, and that's it right now. But I can extend it later on if I want to. Yeah. It will return an encoded string by default and escape it if you want it. I'm not really sure how I want it right now. But for now, I'm just going to be happy with it returning. I'm not sure what to do with it. We'll come back to it. It's not vital right now. It's kind of, we'll figure that out. But I know I can get all of the characters that I might want. But the way I'm doing that in my controller is not how I like to do things at all. Yeah, it's a client issue, not an API issue. You know, I'm going to return things that are not going to show any JSON errors in any way. That is my aim. So HTTP, the next step is we want some responses. We're going to go to V1. So we're going to want a like a collection response. This is a class implementation of a response. It will be responsible. We will need to pass something into the header at this point. Constructor, sorry, header. What am I on about? So we'll have a private read-only JSON API resource collection as the data. We're going to need another package. Composer require, just speed king, SDK tools. Another one that I built. I'm turning into my own personal Sparsy at the moment. It's just me. It's what I do. And then we're going to have a private read-only status, and the default is going to be OK. So this should return a JSON response. So the reason for this is because we want to kind of standardize how we respond as an API. I've seen so many different ways that people can do this. You can add methods to your controller. You can add a trait and then pull it into your controller where you need to. Or you can create a class because, you know, that's testable as a unit or within a resource, a feature or a integration test, whatever you might want to call it. So this is going to return a new JSON response. But the data is this data, where the status is this status value, and where the headers is something that I'm now going to work on. So this can be a read-only class, which is great. More modern features. Come back to our controller here. We can grab this and we can say, we want to return a new collection response where the data is that. This is then responsible. That is no longer needed right now. We can worry about that in a little bit. This returns it exactly how we want it. But now we want to look at the headers, right? We're going to want consistent headers in effect. So what I like to do here is come over to HTTP factories, and I like just to create a little class in here called the header factory, and it will have static methods. So public static function defaults. Going to return an array. It's going to say that the content type is application vnd.api.json. There's so many other headers we could add, but I'm going to keep that as is for now. We want to make sure we do something with this. And we want to say that we are returning a keyed array as a string, basically, for now. We will extend upon that a little bit later. Then what we can do, header factory, default, perfect. So if we look at the headers here, content type is application JSON, send it again. Now we've got that connection, transfer encoding chunked, cache control, currently no cache in private, but we can fix that on a kind of middleware level, sorry. But we've got our character classes. Great. So let's come over to the Laravel docs. Let's full screen this a second so you can see it. And we're going to zoom in so you can actually see it, because my screen is a bit funky dunky. Hard to see things sometimes. So cache middleware. So you've got cache headers, max age, p tag stuff. Whew, right. That's what we want for any meta endpoint, basically. So we can apply this at this layer, this level. So we can say the middleware that we want to apply is this. Oh, there we go. We want to add the e-tag middleware, the cache headers, public, and the max age. Let's see if those now appear. Headers, max age, public. That took 119 milliseconds, 20 milliseconds, 14. So because we're caching it for a long period of time, it means that the round trip is so much quicker. We're using e-tags so that it can verify the content. And it's all good. It's fantastic. We've got rate limiting set up already. That's coming out of the box by default. Application content type. And that'll do for the beginning of our headers. We'll dive into those a little bit more, perhaps next time when I install the Treblle SDK, and we can start looking at the security headers and how our API might be performing. So now that we have one that we know we can do, let's close all of these. Our next root character base resource. I apologize, my network just went a little bit funny. And it's going to be super similar to this. So I can say JSON API resource there. I can drop that, declare some strict types, make this final, race, requests, and we can add the property read character race as a resource, and that should fix most of our problems. That one. Character race. This needs to use get attributes. So I can come back over to here. That'll all line up and be fantastic. So character race resource is now done. We can come over to here and we are going to do something extremely similar to this. So let's grab that, come over to here and let's just pop it in. So we're going to return something that's responsible. It's going to be import that character race resource. And import that. And suddenly we've got another endpoint. If you add a new class, will it break the cache and recache? Yes. So if I extend it, it'll break, because what the etag middleware does is it basically hashes or creates a hash of the response, basically. So etag just manages that for you. Right. So character classes. Let us duplicate this. Character races. And send. Character race. We've got a human. Media. Okay, so one thing I'm noticing is this URL asset isn't working as I would have hoped. I might have to have a look at that and do something like on the media. So at this point, this media will return media value. So I can't add something on that. I'll have a play. I'm not too fussed about the URLs just yet, because it's something that I can work on later on. But they are not correct either way, because we're going back to the user Steve Hurd, D&D API resources, blah, blah, blah. I think that's to do with the URL asset. So if we just like swapped that for that, for example, would that be better? No, it's still going back to that resources. So what we want realistically is this path to be sprintf. The format is going to be, actually, no, that's not how I want to do it at all. Ignore me. I am just going to return that for now. That's going to return racehuman.png. Perfect. I know what I'm doing. Honestly, I do. I've not got a clue what I'm doing. I'm making it up as I go along, but that is part of the fun. We can drop that, and we can then drop that and that because it's no longer needed. This still works. That still works. We're doing good. So next, location types. Yeah, I used to create my own classes for caching. It's not needed. Laravel comes with it out of the box, which is fantastic because it's what you want. So the next step is these location types. It's literally the exact same thing that we have just done. So we can say a location type resource, location type resource. Then what we are going to be able to do is, let's just grab this again, and we're just going to literally copy pasty. Eventually, I'm probably going to end up simplifying this and using traits or extending my own class or something. But this is a location type. So I know that my property read will be a location type for the resource, location type, resource name, location type. Come over to here and tell this to use get attributes so that my things just kind of follow through. It's all good. Name, value, description, media, location type doesn't have anything else other than these kind of tags that I'm using for my own use case right now. That should be it. Other than this, I need to say location type there instead, and that means I can eliminate that one. Come over to my location type controller, which is going to be pretty much the same as this. There might be a way I could simplify a lot of this, but I like to be declarative. So I will do it this way until I have done all of them, and then I'll figure out, okay, is there a better way I can do this? This needs to be a JSON API resource. Which will fix all of that. Good, all good, all good. Right. Now we can duplicate location types, location types, send that, and we've got it. So one thing I think is going to be useful here is if I can also create, like, I'm not going to do the monster one because I don't want to do too much repetition. But if this is a meta, what I'm also going to want, I'm going to want some media here, right? So if I say new PHP file in here for media in our roots, we're going to do something somewhat similar. We're going to want to do heavy caching on this from both HTTP layer and the application. So we're going to say media, media, and media. So if I come over to the media endpoint here, I can pull in the root here, and we're going to want a controller. So let's come over to here, controllers v1 meta, controllers media, and we're just going to have an image controller. And that is literally all we need. So public function invoke. This will get a request. And within here, we're going to say, okay, so what media does it exist? Turn the media. So string, we come back to here. We're going to pass through basically this path. So we're going to pass back a path of some description. So let's hook this up and quickly test it because I've got a meeting in 15 minutes. So let's do a get request on images, image controller. Let's just stick to this for now. Name image images. So make sure that's registered. V1 media images, fact, meta endpoints. I'm going to create a new folder called media to URL. Nope. URL V1 media images. We're not going to worry about headers yet, but if we send that, internal server error, too few arguments. Great. So we want to say locations forest. Well, that's going to come back as a not found. So ideally, we kind of want to do this. So when we're registering this, we're going to want to say path to match up with this. We're now getting that. If we had a slash, it will still come back with a 404. So locations forest. We are then going to get that string and split it into two parts. So this part here. So let's quickly do something like parts equals, I think explode. Is explode the right thing? Split a string by a string. Yes. So the separator is going to be that. The string is going to be that. And we only want, I'm not going to do a limit. So at this point, we can say line dump the parts and let's have a look. So locations and forest. So if directory exists, is the resource path, and the path that we're going to use is images parts, the first part. If that's not a directory, then we want to say a new invalid argument exception, which we can then catch later on. So the message is going to be media type does not exist. Code, we're just going to use status, unprocessable content value, like that. Media type does not exist. I can change this to single quotes quickly. There we go. Ooh, okay. So what we passed over, locations forest. Oh wait, parts. My bad. I did tap it wrong. Okay, so we're still getting it. That's great. Okay, so at this point, we know that we have got a directory we can look in. We then need to look at, okay, this file, is it there? Yes or no, basically. So if file exists, resource path, images, parts, 0, parts, 1, PNG. Because all of them are PNGs. I've made sure of that. So if this file doesn't exist, we're going to do something extremely similar here. Media does not exist. Unprocessable content. There we go. Media doesn't exist. Forest does exist. So at this point, return a new, it's got to be a stream response, right? Streamed response, Symfony component, streamed response. How do we build this one up? We don't want that. There's got to be something in the doc somewhere, right? Image response. HTTP responses, file responses. So response file is what we need, but I don't like doing it that way. So if I do response file, come over to here. This is on the response factory. It is going to return a binary file response. Streamed download. I could do a streamed download or create a new streamed response instance. What's going to be the best way? Let's do a quick die and dump on this. So the file is going to be resource path images. Let's just lift this onto a new line so we can actually focus in on it a little bit. We've got a few minutes. So we're going to want to basically just go for this resource path like that. Images, bloody, bloody, blah. Let's go see what it does. Excellent. We've got binary file response at this point. So if we return that, what does it do for us? We've got an image. That's cool. We should send we want to send the file path so that you can asynchronously fetch the image where you want it, when you want it, basically. The reason for this is because if I'm just going for locations like this and saying, okay, cool, I want to know what locations are. If I am passing back the file for every bit of media, that is really going to extend this lifetime here. Whereas here, it's not. Nice and fast. So this is, yeah, this is a get an image rather than anything else. So let's go back to my locations. Let's look at location type, for example. Let's say I want to get the mountain instead. All I need to do is say, okay, give me the mountain, or give me the prison, give me the keep. And if I give it a word like poop, it's not going to work. Temple, and then these, I can say, okay, so monsters, and then I'm going to use monster types, and we're just going to say, okay, give me the beast. And it's nice and fast. We've got cache, we've got e tags going on, and it's great. all from that one endpoint. It's all protected through this, this. It's rate limited. Okay, I've got a meeting in 5 minutes. And yeah, this is going to return a binary file response. I wonder if I can do that up. Return a new binary file response. The file is going to be what does it expect? File as a string. Great. So then I can drop using those helpers. That still works the same. Status headers. So I can actually just come and create responses v1 and create a file response, implement responsible, public function, construct this up. I mean, I'm not going to use it more than once. However, there could be, yeah, I've got 6 kids. Of course, I'm going to use poop as an example. So let's say private read-only string for the path, private read-only status. As a status, default is going to be okay. To response, this is going to return a binary file response. I can make this read-only. And I can say return new binary file response here, where file is this the path. The status is this status value. The headers I'm going to leave for now. Auto e tag true. Auto last modified is true, and public is true. This is probably all in the wrong order, so sort those arguments. So over here in my image controller, I can now say I'm still returning something that's responsible, like all of my other things. And instead, I can grab this and say return a new file response, which is my own thing. The path is this. And that will work exactly the same, and it's nice and fast. I'm streaming an image as a binary response, but I might want, yeah, exactly. I might want to do character PDFs later, in which case I'm just returning a different file here to this. This is the image controller, so I'd create a PDF controller. It'll be that simple, right? So I just say image, media PDFs, Monster Beast, or media audio, Monster Beast, and I might be able to like get AI to create a raw that I can return back as an MP3. Yeah, those sorts of things. But that is the start of that. We've got some good stuff going on, and we'll pick this up again tomorrow. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, the usual. So if you like the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want to be notified for the next video, subscribe, please. It makes me feel like I'm doing my job. If you've got things you'd like to see me cover next time, make sure to drop a comment. I will schedule it later today. Just drop a comment and let me know what you'd like me to focus on next time. This time has been meta endpoints, and it's been there's a binary file response. Like, subscribe, bell, ting. You know, I haven't got one of those cool animations, but what I do have is a beard and a lot of time. So let me know. Let us know on Twitter, at Treblle API on Twitter. Give us a shout. Let us know your feedback. It's all useful for me. So join me next time. Have a great rest of your day. And I'm going to go join my next meeting. So thank you very much. And thank you for joining me. Stay awesome. Bye bye.